A few days ago there were reports that Christopher Nolan was looking for other studios to produce his next films as opposed to Warner Brothers, which has worked with him since Batman Begins in 2005. And on the 15th of September, it was confirmed that Universal was chosen. In this video, we're going to be looking at why Christopher Nolan decided to leave Warner Brothers after having a successful 15-year relationship, and we're going to be understanding why he chose Universal out of all the studios available to him. We're also going to be looking at what we know about his next film, which is scheduled to be released in 2023. So to understand why Nolan is moving away from Warner Brothers, we have to go back to 2020, with the release of Tenet amid the COVID pandemic. At the time when the film was meant to be released, the pandemic was at its height, which led to films like Artemis Fowl and Onward being moved from a theatrical release to a release on the streaming service Disney+. However, this was not an option for Tenet, as Nolan is an avid supporter of cinemas, and due to being worried about the possible demise of cinemas, Nolan pushed for a release of Tenet to practically save cinemas from permanent closure, as opposed to the film being delayed like No Time to Die and Wonder Woman 1984. And eventually, the film was released and initially fared well in countries like the UK, where COVID restrictions had reduced. However, the film didn't do as well in the US, and as COVID restrictions increased again globally, Warner Brothers in response declared that all 2021 films would have a simultaneous release in cinemas and on the streaming service HBO Max. But this was controversial, as directors who had films scheduled for 2021, like Denis Villeneuve, who is directing Dune, were not told of this beforehand. This led to Nolan putting out a public statement blasting Warner Brothers, saying that, and I quote, "Some of our industry's biggest filmmakers and most important movie stars went to bed the night before thinking they were working for the greatest movie studio and woke up to find out they were working for the worst streaming service." Now, in deciding what studio to go to, Nolan's priority was, as expected, to make sure that the film would get a high budget and also would be able to have a proper theatrical release. And this is more complicated than you would think, because there are only so few studios that can afford a Nolan budget, and a lot of those studios, like Netflix and Disney, are looking to prioritize streaming services rather than theatrical releases. Now, an initial strong contender was Sony Pictures, who did something similar with Quentin Tarantino by producing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood after Tarantino ended his long-standing relationship with the Weinstein Company for obvious reasons. And importantly, they were willing to give Tarantino final cut privileges, even to their own detriment, as the Chinese government had wanted the Bruce Lee scene in the film removed, but as this went against Tarantino's vision, they decided instead to not release the film in China, losing profits. But in the end, Nolan decided to go with Universal, who have had a good track record of releasing films in the cinema post-pandemic, with the success of Fast and Furious 9. And with this film looking to have a $100 million budget, having Universal's distribution machine behind him is going to help promote this film. Now, when it comes to what the actual film will be, very little is known at the moment, but what it looks like is that Nolan is going to make a biographical historical drama about Robert Oppenheimer and his role in the development of the atom bomb during World War II. And even though we've never seen Nolan make a film in this genre before, he's actually written a biographical screenplay before about Howard Hughes, which he has described as his best ever written screenplay. And all we know other than that is that Cillian Murphy, who has collaborated with Nolan before as Scarecrow in the Dark Knight trilogy and Fisher in Inception, could be involved. So now that we know that the relationship between Warner Brothers and Nolan is over for now, it's going to be very interesting to see how this film gets released with Universal. And with the film greenlit to begin production in the first quarter of 2022, be sure to subscribe to the channel to hear more about this film. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.